Very exciting. Good to have you. Welcome to Change Now. So, Berta de Pablos-Barbier, you hold a degree in agriculture engineering and also a master degree in food science and in fashion management. So you come from many different worlds. You are currently the president and CEO of Moët et Chandon, Dom Pérignon and Mercier. And I want to quote a colleague of yours, actually, that I had a briefing call with, and she said that many of your colleagues, when you entered the position, remember a moment of you stepping onto the vineyard in the Champagne region, and your first question was, where are the birds and the bees? And so I want to learn more about your drive for more biodiversity in, obviously, an industry that does have effects on the environment quite a bit, and I'd love to talk about that struggle with you in a moment. Nicolas de Brabandère, he's a biologist by training and a naturalist by heart. And in 2016, after extensive travels to India and elsewhere to learn about innovative ways of growing forests, you founded Urban Forests with a mission to bring fast-growing urban forests to all over Europe and hopefully the world. And I have to say what stuck most with me after our conversation was your genuine love and passion for reconnecting all of us and reconnecting humans with nature. And that's left quite an impression on me. I'd love to start with you, Berta. Make us understand a little who you are as a person, a bit of your personal and professional journey, and just 3 or 4 sentences before we get to the more juicy parts.
Thank you. So 3 or 4 sentences. So I first like to start by saying that the person that briefed you, I actually said, where are the birds and the flowers?
All right.
Because I thought that it would be much nicer with flowers. But actually then my team explained to me the importance of bees. So that was something that I learned after. So 3 things about myself. Listen, I define myself as an optimist problem solver. So when you are an optimist problem solver, what does it mean? Of course, you all know that optimism is about looking at the glass half full and half empty. Well, I think it's about looking at half empty, which is what you explained in the beginning. This is a crisis, but it's the second part. How do we make sure that we fill the glass? And it's about being solutions oriented. And I think about being a problem solver is about making sure that you always leave what you found in a better situation. So of course, as a president and the job that I currently have, I am paid to leave the business in a better place. But I think where you put your passion, and that's what defined me, my passion, my energy, my values is what defined where I am adding value. And I think for me, this is about leaving the people in a better place. So it's nothing that feels me better when I leave a job and the people are happier. And I like what Marina was saying before and the parallelism between people and planet. So to finalize, of course, is that we leave our land and our nature in a much better place than I found it.
And after that moment that I just shared as the anecdote, you launched Natura Nostra, which I have to say seems like quite an ambitious initiative for a company like yours. Can you tell us a little bit more about that? And I might come in just a moment also to the conflicts that there might be between shareholders' interests and the need to run the business and these initiatives. But first of all, make us understand what it is from an ambition point of view.
So basically, when I arrived to Champagne, first what I found is that there were already like 20 years of great work doing to, let's say, fix the basics about not destroying and minimizing the impact of our agriculture practices. So we were already a certified sustainable viticulture in Champagne. But then we realized that it was necessary to accelerate the ecological transition of Champagne. And what does it mean? It's very simple. You need to restore what is being destroyed, and you need to reduce the impact of what you are doing now. So restoring is what we are doing is restoring the biodiversity, and I suppose is why I've been invited here today, because we have a lot of plans to restore the biodiversity, and we are doing that in different ways. But the main thing that we are doing is to get 100 kilometers of green corridors, of ecological corridors, to restore the areas that were, because of agriculture, the different ecosystem and the habitats have been interrupted. So we realized that different species, I think you mentioned 150 destroyed every day. In Champagne, we have about 50 flowers and fauna and 45 fauna and 55 flora that are danger of disappearing. So the question is how we were building these ecological corridors to rejoin the habitat. So that's the first thing, restore the biodiversity. The second is reduce the impact. So what we are doing is that transforming into regenerative agriculture. So this is, I mean, clearly you are all experts about what it is, but this is about changing and evolving our agriculture methods from using things like eco-grazing, using things like cover crops, which is minimizing the impact of our agriculture activity. And last but not least, of course, is about reducing our carbon footprint in our 3 scopes, and that's what we are doing.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing. Nicolas, I'd love to turn the attention to you and ask you why you think, and I hope it's not too deep and general a question, but why do you think we have become so disconnected from nature? I sense that real urge in you to bridge that gap and to make us understand, just like Zaya said earlier, that we are nature. Where do you think the disconnect comes from? What went wrong? What happened? And how can we go back? Or forward, but in a better way?
That's a very tough question. I don't know what went wrong, but it has gone wrong. I just, you know, what fascinates me about nature is really, it started a rock, you know, floating in the universe, the cold, wide universe. And then some life came into being, started like, you know, working on the rock and making nutrient, making soil. And then the plants came out of nowhere. They started digging in the soil, using these nutriments and working with bacteria and fungi to extract nutrients and giving them sugars so that they can develop and be more efficient. And then you have animals coming and forests growing. You know, there's a really good a sentence that sticks in my mind, the soil dream to become a forest. It's really the energy from nature to grow into a forest.
The
to
soil
become an
dreams
ecosystem.
to become a forest.
The soil dreams of becoming a forest. And once it's a forest, the whole ecosystem protecting itself from the wind, from the cold, from the heat. It becomes an habitat for myriads of animals and beings.
I wich I had you as a biology teacher when I was young, to be honest.
And the idea is really, I mean, it's a miracle, you know. It feeds our soul, our spirit. That, you know, we wake up in the morning, we hear birds singing. You know, it's like, what better purpose do you have waking up, you know? So this is what I try to, you know.
And you want to bring that back. Tell us quickly, and try and keep it short and sweet because of a lack of time, but what is your solution? Like, walk us through 1, 2, 3, the work that you do, because it is fascinating, and I invite you all to read up on this.
Well, first, when you have an ecosystem existing, protecting, don't destroy anymore. We've destroyed enough. Second is to regenerate. Think about how you can do it. Plant trees, you know. Don't destroy the land anymore. So what I do is creating small pockets of forest. I bring people together to plant the trees. They see the forest come together. They get to see what an ecosystem looks like. It creates emotion. They see how beautiful it is. They see that it's safe, and they want to do more. So we really need to regenerate agriculture, land, protect forests, and get the understanding of how important that is.
Can I just say something about what you said that is really good, because we talk about the flora and the fauna, and I told you what we found in Champagne, in the Champagne region. But actually what you said is extremely important, because what you are talking about is the living soils. And when you are in agriculture, something that we found as well is that the soils are just perishing it. And the organic material of the soils is disappearing. So I like the way that you are saying, it's beautiful. All soils want to become forests. I'm going to steal that from you and said all soils in Champagne wants to become grapes, but it's absolutely, I think that was absolutely missing, and the regenerative agriculture methods is all about restoring the living soils as well.
And thank you for that perspective. Nicolas, I also saw in your work that the fascinating thing I found personally is that the work that you're doing, it kind of works everywhere. You do this in cities and villages, next to company plants, in public parks, and in just a very small amount of time, there is this beautiful regeneration. You know, the soil wakes up and becomes the forest through the work that you do. Can you give us like 2 or 3 practical examples of where do you do this? Give an image to the people of where is this happening?
The idea is to create forest ecosystem where people live and work. So I don't want to go far away to see good nature. I want to step out of my house. I want to go to work and see nature around me. So it can be around a building. It can be near culture, you know, agriculture. It can be anywhere where we live and work. So the way we start with the soil, we regenerate the soil. Then we plant the trees. We look after the trees for 3 years only, and then it becomes self-sustaining. So it changes over time, every season, every year. It grows much quicker than anything we've seen before. This is because there's it's hard to explain really what happened.
You use Miyakawa, right? The Miyakawa method. I don't know if it's...
I used the Biodiversity method. So the idea is really to regenerate pieces of a lost forest. The forest as it used to be in the past. A forest that is very complex, very diverse, from soil to plant and everything that comes living in this habitat. And that what's happening, it's really also, it's a physical, philosophical message also. When we create this ecosystem, we realize that cooperation is more important than competition. All the parts of the ecosystem needs to be together to work and express the beauty. So this is what I want people to grasp.
Yeah. Berta, as the president of obviously a renowned business and the CEO, you have to juggle a lot of interests, I imagine. Your customers expect a high-quality product, your investors expect some return, and there's obviously, and should be above everything, the protection of nature. Do you foresee or do you see struggles between that? How do you manage to balance that out? What are you planning? How are you maybe holding yourself and your team accountable to that biodiversity journey? This conflict of interest, or maybe supposed conflict of interest, how do you address that?
No, thank you. Very, very good question. So I would just like to say that there is no conflict of interest, because actually when you work in Champagne, if you don't have good grapes, you will not have a business. So I think the difference for us is that as a president of Moët Chandon, my job is to protect the patrimony. We are a 280-year maison, so my job is to making sure that we last at least another 300 years, and we protect our patrimony, and nature is our patrimony. So I think that is very important. But what you ask as well is very important, and someone was saying before, if there is a money problem, it's not a problem. I would just like to say this is not a money problem. This is about a way of thinking problem. And you were talking about philosophical and beauty, and I love the way you expressed it. It's the same thing. It's a way of looking at the world, of leaving the world in a much better place than you found it. That is important, and it's about protecting the patrimony, the natural patrimony. So for us, what does it mean? It means about training our vineyard, the people that are working in our vineyard, to do things differently. It's about when you are doing the weeding, you are not using tractors anymore. It's about changing the tractors that we are remaining for electrical tractors. It's about starting eco-grazing, which means that you need to start having a sheep population, and you need to know what are you going to be doing with those sheep when the spring comes and there is no more weeding. So it's about a completely changing the way we work, and that needs training and needs as well leading with example. So.
And you need the whole team to come with you also.
Absolutely, yes.
It needs to make sense. They need to be dignified. They need to be proud. And how do you manage to get that from your team?
Good question. I think it's all about by painting a vision about what we are doing. And I think Marine was talking about making sure that things are legal. Yes, of course, we have to do legal things. The opposite will be dangerous. But what is most important is that are we doing the right thing? Are we doing the right thing ethically? Are we doing the right thing for the planet? Are we doing the right thing for the people? And I haven't met a single good human being in the world that is not inspired by doing the right thing. So the way we just take the team to that is just explaining to them that this is the right thing. But I have to say, and I don't think if I feel very old or very young today, by seeing the young generations and what all these generations are changing in terms of being solutions driven, makes it much more easier, because there is a bigger conscious now that if we don't change now, is going to be a big problem. So that conscious is there, is now how we lead with example and tell everyone this matters, this is important.
And they ask for urgent action, and rightfully do so. And it's good to hear that that impulse is there and some accountability built into it as well. Nicolas, very practically, and maybe just a last statement and then a final word from Berta as well. How can we get involved in the urban forests?
I would say first start in your garden. Look after your own garden. Make sure that you have a natural ecosystem in your own garden. Let the grass grow. Plant some trees, some shrubs. Then if you want to go deeper and really make a forest, maybe be more ambitious with the idea of like inoculating forests in many places, you can call on us, urbanforest.fr. And just first, see what we do, see what it looks like, and if you're as excited as we are, call us. We only work with people that are motivated and enthusiastic, just like we were.
Going to be quite difficult to match your enthusiasm, but it's also quite the driver and exciting. So thank you, Nicolas. Berta, one or two last sentences.
One of two last things, they keep driving change. I think put your passion and your energy where you think you can make a difference, and keep being very demanding of all brands, of all companies, to make sure that they are doing the right thing. I think that is very important. So as I was saying, make sure that you know what your values are, because those will be your added value into this world.
Keep demanding. That's very
Keep
good.
demanding.
Yeah. I don't know if you've heard, but yesterday at the General Assembly of Total Energies, the young activists demonstrated in front of the building, and the dancers that we've seen earlier, they were also there. So I think we need the pressure, but we also need the constructive action on the other hand.
Oh, sorry, I interrupted. Carry on.
We really need to reconcile also the economy with ecology. It cannot be separated like it has been going on for too long.
I have to pick that as the final statement. We are at the end of the time, but Berta and Nicolas, thank you so much for being with us and your contributions.
Thank you very much.